What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, Morgan Allena True Crime and Mystery. Today, guys, some new bombshell documents have come out, and I am ready to get into them about Gypsy Rose Blanchard. And honestly, they're about some of the most disturbing and disgusting statements that she's made about her story and how she was involved with Claudine Blanchard's murder alongside Nick Godejohn and his disturbing, twisted sexual fantasies, one in particular involving an imaginary future child. And not only was that a lie that Gypsy Rose Blanchard told, now we have the actual proof that shows when this exactly happened and how it exactly came to be. And guys, it is gross. This is huge. This is what the point of this is, proving the lies, getting into the nitty-gritty of this case and exposing it for what it is. It is all fake and made up by Gypsy Rose Blanchard, her attorney, and everyone that is involved with Gypsy to this day. She has basically ran Nick's name down to the dirt. Honestly, it's disturbing, and all of it comes from her own sick, twisted mind that she then transferred over and placed the blame to Nick. One is a huge one that a lot of people could never get past, and I want to get into it. But before we do, as always, please make sure to hit the subscribe button if you are not already, and be sure to hit the like button at any point during this video if you would like. I appreciate it. I also want to give a special thank you to Mellow Yellow 2022 for giving me another super thanks in the comments on my last video. I believe that is your second one. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. So everybody give a round of applause to Mellow Yellow. I appreciate you all so much for watching and helping support my channel. But let's get down to what's important and showing how Gypsy Rose Blanchard is a liar. So if you're unfamiliar with what Gypsy Rose Blanchard said about Nick Godejohn, among a ton of other disgusting and disturbing claims that she made, one of which is at the top of my list, was a story about how she had broken up with Nick Godejohn at one point in time during their relationship before Claudine Blanchard was murdered. And it was over the fact that, according to Gypsy, Nick made a comment that whenever him and Gypsy got married and had a child together, that he would be taking the child for himself at the age of 13, therefore taking the child's, I don't know if I'm gonna even get flagged for saying things like that. I don't even want to say what it is, so you can read it here. This is going to be an excerpt from Gypsy Rose Blanchard's book, where she's basically describing the scenario and how horrified she felt whenever she heard this from Nick. And we all know that she also later on, after Claudine's body was found, she brought up how Nick said that he wanted to essentially rape Claudine Blanchard's body, and Gypsy, being the hero that she is, jumped up and said, "No, not my mother. You can kill her, but you can't do that. You can do it to me instead," right in the other room. Obviously, we know that is not exactly how that played out due to evidence and text messages. That is literally not what happened at all. You can go back and listen to Nick's interrogation video where he's like, I mean, yeah, I thought about it, and I said that I thought about it, but in the way that he words that, it makes me believe that Gypsy was the one that brought this conversation up and the topic up to Nick Godejohn. And the bombshell documents that were released onto Reddit, I know that some of it has been denied and it won't be released until June from what I've read and researched from what others have said. I personally tried to put a FOIA in myself, but it was just not possible for me at that point. Expensive, honestly. But for some of these larger creators, that if it's possible for them, we need to kind of get some sort of plan together in order to get this information, because this is what is important. But anyway, back to what the Redditor posted. It was a document from a FOIA that had come out, which FOIA is Freedom of Information Act, that is basically allows anybody to put in a request to get documents, but they still have like restrictions and limits on whatever they can release because of appeals or time limits or whatever. But this one that they released was basically about a video, and it was describing the video of Gypsy as Demona Loveslave, and that was one of her alter egos. So Gypsy Rose Blanchard and Nick Godejohn both had a set of alter egos. Obviously, Nick's evil one was Victor. Gypsy had multiple evil ones. Demona Loveslave, Ruby was another one, and Ruby was one that also liked to talk about rape, robbing, killing, except for her mother. I think that is, like, honestly, it's kind of funny because she does it again in this document where she's like, I can do anything and kill anybody except my mother. Like, that just shows you how diabolical and manipulative she was to Nick Godejohn, and he just, unfortunately, like, with his disability, he could not pick up on those cues, and she was so well aware that she was going to be running him into the ground with manipulation and all of these tactics and promises, and really digging in and playing into these fantasies, because that's what they were to him. Fantasies, you know, pretend, living in a pretend world. She made those like a reality for him, and she knew what she was doing. Let's look at what these documents say and how they describe the video of Demona Loveslave, aka Gypsy Rose Blanchard. Okay, I gotta get my glasses on because I'm literally blind, and these words are very small, but I want to make sure I don't miss anything in these documents, so I'm going to be looking back and forth, so just ignore me and follow along with the docs. There are videos which are the exact same but are labeled different titles. Nicholas did not talk about the murder or any plans for him to commit the murder in the videos. Most of all of the videos are Nicholas talking about his relationship and sexual experiences that him and Gypsy were going to have. Nicholas mostly rambles on in the video and does not talk a whole lot about anything but the two's relationship. Nicholas appeared to be talking and acting normal in most of the videos. There are some videos there where he would change his voice and act as if he was another person. The following few videos are mostly the kind of things Nicholas would talk about in all of the other videos. The following few videos' content is written out to give an example of what the rest of the videos are similar to. This was done to save time for someone else to have to watch the next several hours of the video. The rest of the videos I watched were indicated as nothing pertaining to the homicide, same as the video above. Video labeled 00002 is over 13 minutes long. In this video, Nicholas is talking to Gypsy's other alternate made-up personalities. He's talking about having sexual intercourse with Gypsy and his rough sexual side toward her when they have sexual intercourse. He talked about how he was Gypsy's master and how each personality needed to wear certain types of clothing during sexual intercourse. He talked about how hard it would be for Gypsy to please him and she needed not to disappoint him. He talked about how she needed to make some videos for him. Video labeled 0006 is 6 minutes long. In this video, Nicholas is playing with himself and shows his to the full camera on the device he is recording from. He talked about how he did research on how to get to be full size. He said according to a website he went to, it indicated if you drink a lot of sugar or soda with sugar and caffeine, your blank would be fully erect the following day. During the video, he continues to try to make his erect while he was talking to Gypsy about the method. He said this was his second attempt at showing his fully erect to her, but he does not accomplish this. He talked about how he was not happy with the length of his blank. Video labeled 07 is over 18 minutes long. Nicholas is talking about how they have been together for over a year. He talked about how most relationships do not last because of the distance between them. He talked about how they have been through rough times and yet their bond grows stronger even though the hard times. He talked about how he fought for all his ex-girlfriends and none of them fought for him. He thanked Gypsy for trusting in him and how she would not go behind his back. He talked about a ring he wore to remind him of her. He said that when he goes to the library and observes an attractive woman, he would look at the ring and be reminded of her. He went on to talk about how he was a faithful person and how he did not have to worry about being her unfaithful or about her being unfaithful either. The video labeled 008 is 12 minutes long. In this video, Nicholas awakes from sleeping and started talking on the computer to Gypsy. He talked about what he was wearing to bed, which was t-shirt and plaid boxers. He messes with the computer camera and focuses it on his crotch area. He then removes his blank from his underwear, showed it at a limp state, and talked about how he'd actually been up for a while, and that's why he was no longer fully erect. He showed off his bracelet he was wearing and his necklace. Most of the video was basically about him wanting to be able to be fully erect to show Gypsy. Video labeled 009 is over 4 minutes long. This video, Nicholas talked about how it was 4 o'clock in the morning and he was making a good night video to Gypsy. Video labeled 0010 is 18 minutes long. Nicholas is addressing Gypsy and how her body may be broken physically but not spiritually. He talked about Gypsy deserved him and his love to her. He told her he only wanted 3 things from her: sex, affection, and staying true to him. He talked about how they adored each other to the other person, even would murder someone for them. And video 3813 is over 21 minutes long. In this video, Nicholas talked about how he could see into the future and wanted to warn Gypsy that he would not be at home, but he would be at his grandmother's house. He talked about Ash Wednesday, and during this time, he would be very busy doing fish fries. He talked about how he was going to make a trip to Gypsy to see her, but he did not go into detail about why or for what reason he was going to visit her. He talked about how he could make a lot of money by playing fantasy sports. He talked about the Disney movie Up and how it reminded him of her. He talked about an account of some sort where she had money possibly saved up, but he never said how much or what type of account or bank. A fruitful future with me, MP3, MP4, same as the video above. A message from King Nick and Master Victor about second trial equals. Nicholas talked about his court appearance in Wisconsin and how he had set up a payment plan to pay his fine. He talked about how he was consistent with everything he does and that the fine will be paid, because the alternative would be spending 4 days in jail. He talked about the date 11/11/2013 being his court date, which was the same day he made the video. He talked about how he was testing the media when they interviewed him about the case and how they lied about what he said. Later in the video, Nicholas changes his voice and told Gypsy her master Victor was now the one talking to her. Nicholas, aka Victor, talked about the court fines again. A message from your King Nick and Master Victor about the second trial, same as the video above. And some various other video titles. And then expressing more feelings, Nicholas told Gypsy he was upset with her because she compared him to a serial killer. He said he had too much of an innocent personality to do that. He talked about how he was hurt and how she hurt him by saying that. He talked about a spell he wanted to do so that they could be bound together forever. He talked about the eyes being the window to the soul, but the ears were the road to his soul. He said he had never had a mother or a father because they were working all the time and did not spend enough time with him. He said Gypsy was like a mother to him. Because of this, he had to grow up early. He was a family man with rare characteristics. He said she did not need to compare him to Charles Manson because he did research on him. He then yells at her to not ever compare him to Charles Manson. He told Gypsy she did not need to fear his Dark One coming out and killing her or doing anything to harm her. The Dark One might do sexual things, but he would not harm her. He said she had 2 protectors inside of him to keep her safe. Remember when I told you guys that it was Gypsy actually looking up the serial killers? The same thing, like if you guys go back and watch that video I made about Gypsy and Jeffrey Dahmer, the way she pronounces Dahmer, because she was actively looking up serial killers, probably for like her serial killer inspo. You know, you remember that? I literally called that. I knew that that's what she did. And that hurt his feelings that she called him Charles Manson, which is ironic, you know, because Gypsy now has the same nickname as Gypsy Rose Manson, given the same, you know, thing that she says, that I never killed anybody, just like, you know, Charles Manson did. It says, forgotten sexual instructions from Master Victor. Nicholas is talking in a deeper voice and told Gypsy and her other character, Demona, they had something expensive they needed to wear when they made their video to him. He said they needed to do this so they would not disappoint him and they would get more videos from him back. He said Demona was built to handle some very sexual things. He wanted Gypsy to wear white and red lingerie. He wanted Demona to wear red and black lingerie because they were vampire colors. He said him and Victor and Nicholas would be pleased. He said they would be able to dominate her to the point she would be scared and it would be easy. He told her sex with her master would be pleasure and pain. From the Hurt Inside 2 MP4, Nicholas talked about Gypsy came into his life. He was afraid he would never find true love. He talked about how he was going to do a BDSM website and order a chained up slave. He said he was getting hopeless and trying to find true love until she came into his life. He said the Lord brought her into his life before he got to that point. So do you see like the way that Nicholas is describing things and wanting to be involved with Gypsy for true love? Yeah, he's talking about BDSM and talking about things like slaves and stuff like that, but it's almost like he's just, I'm really not trying to say anything rude or offensive, but it's just not the same with his intellectual disability, trying to understand these very graphic, very specific types of content and context of, preferences or whatever. He wants to focus back on true love, and then to sit there and say the Lord brought us together, like it's a kind of like there's an innocence in that. Yes, he's been exposed to things that he probably should not have been exposed to, like porn and things like that, but it's the way he's talking about it, it's not coming from like an in-depth real knowledge and depravity, if you know what I'm trying to say. So then there's some other goodnight message videos, and then another one. It describes Nicholas as telling Gypsy happy birthday in this video. Then in around 4 minutes, 30 seconds into the video, he closes his eyes and Master Victor is now the one talking. Victor told her happy birthday and told her to give him feedback on the video. Nicholas then started talking in his normal voice and also as Victor, as if they were both talking to her. So can you catch the way that she described this Victor character as being someone truly dark, truly evil, truly scary, someone who she was really genuinely afraid of? And then he's like, happy birthday from Victor, I love you, I would never hurt you, I'm not a killer, I would never be a serial killer, I would protect you, don't have to worry about any of that. But she wants us to believe that she was genuinely afraid and scared. That makes zero logical sense. Then moving on to another video, Nicholas introduces himself to Gypsy as her Master Victor. He talked about how she was a reliable slave to him and thanked her for the loyalty. Victor then said he was now going to let Nicholas talk to her about something important. He said she should not expect presents from him and all that should matter is time to her. He continued to talk about her being spoiled with his time. She did not respond to his video about time or presents. Important video, winky face equals the same video above. Letter confirmation and other topics by your King Nick equals Nicholas told Gypsy he had another ultra personality who he learned over the weekend was called Shaniri, and Shaniri was due to come out at any time. Master Victor's message 2 equals Victor. Nicholas is talking as Victor. He talked about how there were different kinds of vampires in the world. He talked about how the sun gave some vampires their power, and these vampires do not need blood. He said there was human-type vampires who are friendly toward others. There was a vampire who gets their power from the moon, and they don't need to hunt, but they don't like the sun. He said his breed does not drink blood, they eat regular food, and they hate all other vampires. Master Victor's message, same video above. Master bonus video with Nick at the ending. Nicholas is talking as Victor, and he told Gypsy that she will give a hex spell to someone as he commands. He is very firm and authoritative about this. He told her she will do what he said. She will. I don't know what that means. He talked about how he could break her spell and was not joking around about it. He gives her several firm warnings, telling her she will do what he said. He talked about how if she did not do this, what he said, he would make her put a hex spell on a female so he could rape her and even have a gangbang with this female. He said this does not mean he would kill her, but that he would break her spirit forever. He said if he observed someone as sexual, she would need to put a hex spell on this female so that he could rape her. During the duration of the video, he continued to command her to do whatever he told her to do. Master White Collar response equals Nicholas is talking as Victor in this video. He said Gypsy would earn her white collar when they are in person. He mainly reprimands her in this video for not saying goodnight the proper way. He also talked about what she needed to expect sexually when they were together. More videos about nothing pertaining to homicide. Must listen to message from your king Nick equals Nicholas talked about how the dark one was more than likely going to come out sometime this evening. He said he knew because of the songs in his head. Nothing pertaining to homicide, nothing pertaining to homicide. Plenty of other ones not pertaining to the homicide. Shanieri's introduction to Damona and Gypsy. The screen is dark and Nicholas is talking with a different voice, portraying to be whom he called Shanieri? Shanieri? I don't know the name. Nicholas is very hard to understand in this video because of the way he talked. He called Gypsy by name and then he called out to Damona as well. He talked about how he could see everything behind the scenes and he knows everything that goes on. He told Gypsy she had better obey him or he would hurt her if she messed up. He would make her life a living hell. He said he had no heart and he had no care in the world. He told her she would do whatever he told her to do when they were together in person. Shanieri's next message to Damona and Gypsy. The screen is dark and Nicholas is talking with a different voice, portraying to be who he called Shanieri. He said he would not reveal his identity or to her even though she requested him to. He mostly talked about how he could make her sad or happy and she needed to listen and obey him. He told Gypsy she was playing with fire and she thought Damona would help get her out of this situation. She was wrong. He addressed Damona as being his partner in crime, but he did not elaborate on this. He talked about being able to sense things from other people's souls and seeing through their souls. He said he knows her master Victor has something planned for them. He said they needed to obey him and they had no other choice but to obey him. He has something planned for them. He said he only had one soulmate and that was his sister and he hoped this could be one big love affair. He said if she could hurt other people and do evil for him, this would prove her love to him and show they are interested in him. He said he would prefer to rape her versus having normal sexual intercourse. He said if she was willing to help him kill someone and let him rape her, he would not hurt her. Nicholas is talking at first and he introduced Victor, who then spoke. He talked about how he did not want Gypsy to mention something on Facebook. He did not say what it was. They were just not supposed to talk about it. Nicholas comes back and said he did not know what Victor just told him, but he thought he heard something about a video. Nothing pertaining to the homicide, nothing pertaining to the homicide. Victor's farewell video to Gypsy. Nicholas is talking as Victor in this video and addresses it to Gypsy. He talked about having a new slave and being a vampire who could do sexual paralysis on somebody. He talked about a video Gypsy made for him and how she gave up her ownership to him. There were ownership papers found on Nicholas's computer. He talked about a journey trip he would take and Gypsy would have to make sure she did her part to help Damona. He said he was looking for an opportunity to strike. He did not elaborate about the journey or the trip. He mostly talked about how he had plenty of slaves in the past and Gypsy, was not fully trained. He said that she would be overwhelmed by Nicholas when they meet in person. He talked about the different characters they had and when they all met each other. He talked about how he was not afraid to manipulate anybody. He talked about how she would have respectful fear of him. Possibly same video, would not play, same video, blah, 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 blah. Words of wisdom from your master Victor. Nicholas is talking as Victor in this video and addresses it to Gypsy. He said as soon as Gypsy is his property, all the back talking between her and Nicholas would need to stop. He blamed Gypsy for starting the arguments between them and he wanted to give her some words of warning. He warned her that it was not a good idea to do this because he could do whatever he wanted to her. He talked about Gypsy signing the paper that she would be his and everything she owned is his. He would be her official master at that point. He told her she needed to do a response video and if it were more than 10 minutes long, he would be mad, and if it was less than 5, she would be in trouble. If she were to make his life difficult, then he would make her life hell. He gave her 5 rules to follow to keep her master content. Think selflessly, worship, obey, honesty, and trust him. He said she should listen to him because he, Victor, was aware of them doing some bad things in the future to get back at a couple of people. He said he would not name who they were since he, Victor, was aware of who they were as much as Nicholas and Gypsy were. Your king's newest update, nothing pertaining to the homicide. Your master Victor's commands and sexual instructions. Nicholas is talking as Victor in this video and addresses to Gypsy. He said Gypsy had to make a sexual video for Nicholas and gave her some instructions. He said he wanted her to respond to how she felt about Nicholas having anal and vaginal sex. He asked her to respond to how she felt about being restricted, bound, and him taking her virginity. He talked about how the stretch out to 9 inches, and he wanted to make sure she was okay with it if he was able to make his 9 inches in length. He wanted Gypsy to rape him and told her he is turned on by it. Nicholas wanted Gypsy to tell him how she felt about him blanking her. The following are videos that this investigator thought were of significance from Gypsy to Nicholas, which were located on Nicholas's computer. The following are the files and videos I reviewed, and is not intended as an exact transcript or exact text of the files and videos. Nothing pertaining to the homicide. Gypsy is outside on her deck in her wheelchair and is recording the backyard with her cell phone close to her house, and said these are good spots. She did not elaborate by what she meant by good spots. Gypsy is showing Nicholas several baby items she has collected and put them in plastic containers. She said Damona got all the baby items that Gypsy, did not have to get them. She thanked Damona for getting the baby items. She said all that she needed now was the baby. Gypsy is showing some black and pink lacy underwear she said she would be wearing for Nicholas when they meet again in June. Gypsy is apologizing to Nicholas because of how she acted the day before. She said she would try to be a better person in the future and that she would never leave him. Nothing pertaining to the homicide. Nothing pertaining to the homicide. Gypsy talked about how she did not feel she was worthy of Nicholas and she was a broken person and did not know how to fix herself. She apologized several times to Nicholas in this video. Gypsy said she was making this video at the command of Master Victor. She talked about Victor being a ruler of everything and how he was in charge of everything and every part of her. She said he took care of her, and if he asked her to do something, she would do it. She said Victor's words overruled Nicholas's words, and she had to obey him. Gypsy then changes her wig and her outfit and then calls herself Damona and told Nicholas she was commanded to do this video by Victor. She then gets naked and told Nicholas that Victor owned all of her, including her body. Gypsy introduces herself as Damona and said she would do anything Nicholas said for her to do. Damona Part 1 and 2, Damona Part 1, Damona Part 2. This is a continuation from video titled Damona Part 1, 2. She continued to talk about how she pledged her life and love to him. Gypsy is portraying to be Damona and talked about how she, Damona, was the reason for the breakup between she and Nicholas. She talked about how she was going to unalive herself because she caused them to break up. Damona Part 3 would not play. Damona to Sir Black One. Gypsy introduces herself as Damona and she told Nicholas she would be making this video because he commanded her to do so. She talked about how she was a slut and how she could hurt someone, cannot physically harm her mother or Nicholas. See where that little mental game comes into play all the time with Gypsy and what she's doing to Nicholas, and he doesn't know how to be able to pick it up. He can't. He isn't able to. He is not able to distinguish a manipulation and what she is doing to play him and play these little mind games. She said if Sir Black One wanted to beat her for not wanting to hurt them, then he could beat her physically. She said she was very good at stealing and this was her specialty. She went on to explain and why she was good at stealing. She talked about how she could make money and she promised Nicholas she would do this for him even if it meant her sleeping with a stranger for money. She said she could blank Nicholas by tying him up and they would be great partners in crime. Damona to Sir Black One, video but not played. Damona's anniversary video _264. Gypsy introduces herself as Damona. She talked about being in love with him and how she wanted them to live together away from other people. She talked about having children with Nicholas. She said they would have to teach and educate their children what not to say in public to keep them being a vampire a secret. If they had a girl, then their daughter would lose her virginity to Nicholas because he would be the master of the household. She said when she turned 13, she would explain this to their daughter and why she had to give her virginity to Nicholas. She talked about how she was Nicholas's slave and he could have her anytime he wanted. See how this little phrase immediately comes up from Gypsy herself? This did not come up in Nick's videos in the way that they're describing Nick's videos. He did not mention anything about a child or pertaining to a child, but Gypsy is the one who brought up this part of a little baby, introducing this into the conversation, which is entirely different than what she alleges happened. Damona's sorry to her master. Gypsy introduces herself as Damona again. She talks about how she had done something bad and she had disappointed Nicholas. She said she was very sorry for disappointing him because of a profile she had made on the computer. She told him she was afraid of disappointing him and she knew this was wrong. Throughout the video, she begged for forgiveness. She talked about how sorry she was and how she was a submissive slave to him. Sorry, I had to pin my hair back. It's driving me crazy. Gypsy's big test video part 2. In this video, Gypsy is recording herself to Nicholas as he commanded. She had a list of commands from Nicholas to sit and stand in different positions as well as take some of her clothes off. He commanded her to bow, kiss the floor, and remove the rest of her clothes. She is fully nude at the time. She is instructed to do a full 360 turn so the camera would catch every side of her naked body. She is commanded to get on her hands and knees. Throughout the rest of the video, she is commanded to pose for the camera and other sexually explicit positions and to play with her various parts. Gypsy's farewell video to Victor 2. Gypsy is talking as herself and is telling her master goodbye. She often wondered if she had pleased him or not. She talked about how she learned a lot from him and she was sad because it was like saying goodbye to a family member. She appeared to be sad and was crying in the video over saying goodbye to her master. Gypsy's final attempt of humiliation test. In this video, Gypsy is in a bubble bath or in the bathtub and said she was doing this video because she was commanded to. She rubbed herself with several food items all over her body and said she felt ashamed and humiliated. She begged her master to let her pass this test. In this video, Gypsy is in a bathtub and said she was doing this to become Nicholas's slave. She rubbed several items of food all over her body and said she felt ashamed and humiliated. She begged her master to let her pass the test. She said she was completely humiliated and hoped it was all worthwhile. She was visibly crying and upset. Sorry message about Jackie too. Gypsy told Nicholas she made a mistake and she did not mean to go against his wishes. She received a message from Jackie's husband. She sent him a message 6 months prior and then he responded back. She begged for Nicholas's forgiveness and apologized throughout the video. She was visibly upset and crying on the video. She begged Nicholas not to leave her and talked about how she was not perfect. She said she would obey him from now on and she would do or be anything he wanted. Gypsy trying to calm Nick down about trial. Gypsy trying to calm Nick down. Nothing pertaining to the homicide. Gypsy's video to My Evil Side. Gypsy introduces herself as Gypsy. She said she was making this video to Nicholas's evil side. She thanked him for what he was going to do for her and the both of them. She said she was sorry for not getting all of the ingredients that are necessary. She said she did not get a taser because she thought they were going to do one plan and then she changed the plan. She asked Nicholas to please not hurt her. She said she did end up getting a knife, tape, and handcuffs. She was not specific about what she was talking about. She said she would accept the punishment, whatever it was. I'm deeply sorry for letting you down, Master. Video would not play. I am so deeply sorry for letting you down, Master. In this video, Gypsy is talking to Master Victor Nicholas. She made a bad mistake because she was not observant. She said she was sorry for not ending a conversation on the computer in the correct way by putting an emoji symbol at the end, and this was why Nicholas was upset. She was punished by not hearing or talking to Nicholas. She talked about how much her life is disrupted when she cannot talk to Nicholas. She understood why he was punishing her, but she begged him to forgive her and let her talk to Nicholas. She was visibly upset and crying. Clearly this sounds all like acting and performative videos. I mean, I doubt she was sincerely sobbing in a room, like for real, and her mom not noticing. Look at the amount of these videos and tell me that her mom was over her watching her 24/7. Not possible. It's not that big of a house. I mean, really, the house is not that big where you can just go off into another area and be completely secluded. Like, it's a smaller home. It's not, you don't have that ability to be completely secluded to where Gypsy's mom, had she been watching over her in the way that Gypsy wants to maintain, it's not possible. In this video, Gypsy again apologized to Nicholas for her not thinking clearly, being confused, and being stupid. She talked about a person who had feelings towards her, but she did not have feelings for him. She told Nicholas it was just a friendship feeling and nothing more. She talked about how she did not want to lose him. She had to explain herself to Nicholas and was visibly upset. She's apologizing to Nicholas for being a bad girlfriend and complaining, visibly upset, and asked for forgiveness. I'm so sorry, my king. The videos are the same. Video would not play. I wonder if this would be in relation to the whole text messages where Gypsy was saying, what if I wanted to go meet up a guy and have sex with him, and the whole cupcake shop and that weird conversation that happened just before Dee Dee was murdered. Because if you go back and review the text messages, Gypsy was talking about wanting to meet some guy and basically asking Nick for permission and saying that Nick could be around the corner, like, is he going to be jealous? How is this going to play out type of thing? Because she literally could do whatever she wanted, and Nicholas was just wanting to do what he thought needed to be done in a relationship because he really didn't understand relationships in that way. You know what I mean? And then there's just a bunch more videos that don't pertain to the homicide. Gypsy apologized to Nicholas for getting angry with him. She said Victor could be overwhelming at times and she loved him. This video was short, nothing to the homicide, nothing pertaining. Gypsy dressed up as Harley Quinn. Gypsy and Demona random videos. My response video, Gypsy said she was sorry to Nicholas because she was being a brat about showing her body to him. She was upset with Nicholas because he wanted to look at her whole body and then he would judge her body after he observed her naked. She said she didn't want to do this, or she did not want to do this because she was afraid he was going to post the pictures. She apologized to Nicholas for not communicating properly. She said she would not backtalk towards him again, and he did have the right to spank her. She talked about Nicholas's dominant side and how she could adapt to his dominant side and she would be good from now on. She said he was allowed to give her 15 spankings for her being disrespectful towards him. She was not crying in this video, but was a bit upset. And you guys do remember, Gypsy did cosplay as Anastasia Steele from 50 Shades of Grey, so she was very much into the whole 50 Shades of Grey saga. She probably read the book. She was not unfamiliar with the whole BDSM thing, and it was said that Dan Glidewell, Gypsy's first boyfriend, questionable boyfriend, said that Gypsy was very much into the BDSM type of stuff way before she ever met Nicholas Godejohn. In this video, Gypsy was crying and telling Nicholas she was sorry for making so many mistakes. She was pleading for Victor to not take Nicholas away from her. She promised to do better. Gypsy then said she is now Demona and begged Victor not to let any of Gypsy's personalities lose Nicholas. All her plans in life included Nicholas, and she could not bear losing him. Then there are quite a few videos titled Seductress Mother, Part 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 6. Part 2, Slave Demona and Slave Gypsy White Collar video, nothing pertaining to the homicide, slaves having fun, video would not play. Obviously, you guys can read the titles of all of these videos that Gypsy was making, so you have to imagine all of these videos, and there's probably some that are not even included in these documents, Gypsy was making on a daily basis and expects everyone to seriously believe that her mother was watching her like a hawk. Her mother who did not leave, who did not work, who was home 24/7 with Gypsy. Make it make sense. And yet you can hear the text and context of Nicholas's videos, not one mention of a child. Who mentioned the child? Gypsy Rose Blanchard mentioned the child. And Gypsy always loves to bring up this little fact of Nick was excited. Nick was excited. He loved to do these things. He loved rape. He loved these things. So did she. She seemed to bring it up a lot more. She seemed to do things a lot more than he did. And in the way that they kind of actually made sense. And Nick's, when he's speaking about things, they don't really make a whole lot of connections because he's not really making the connections in the way they would need to be contextually. You know what I mean? I think he's saying things because he thinks that's what she wants him to say, but ultimately it sounds just like someone that is just... I'm trying to be careful what I'm saying because I really don't want to offend anybody, but with Nick's disability, he just... I think you know what I'm getting at. All videos that Gypsy Rose Blanchard said to him, and that she would later turn and flip onto him, writing it in her book as some disgusting story, a basic fan fiction novel that she wrote down in order to make Nicholas out to be everything that he isn't. He is a man who has an intellectual disability, and he just was not the person that she made him out to be. You can even tell by the way that he reacted whenever he was compared to Charles Manson. He went and looked him up, and it offended him. So this was not for real for him. This was not a reality for him, that he actually wanted to be a literal serial dark killer. Like, he just didn't want to do it. He did not want to be a murderer. But Gypsy wants to portray him as that, and he just, even still with his disability, he can't, express the way that he actually feels, or he's not able to deliberate in the way that he needs to get what the true story really is across. And so that's why he's trying to protect himself, because he literally told Gypsy, I don't want anything but just to love you. He just wanted a relationship. And he was giving Gypsy what she thought. And yeah, he obviously liked a few things that were a little different. But you can tell there's a clear motive between the two of them. And Gypsy's was always to manipulate Nicholas Godejohn into killing her mother. She did not care about him. That's why she was constantly apologizing for talking to other guys, for doing all of these things, when all he wanted was just to kind of play in this fantasy thing and, do what he thought a real relationship really was. And Gypsy did not want that. She wanted to move on from him, but she needed to get what she needed out of him first. So these documents have now been posted on the Gypsy Rose Blanchard subreddit. Go read them, go share them. This is what matters. This is what's important. Not Gypsy Rose dropping $1,000 on some Khloe Kardashian jeans. Nobody cares. This is what matters. This is important. Everything that she has told the public is a lie. Do not forget it. Everything that you thought you knew about her is a lie. Every sick and twisted detail is something she created and she plotted and she planned to either blame on somebody else or just simply didn't happen. That is the real Gypsy Rose, who has not changed, who has not reformed, who has not rehabilitated whatsoever. Period. And I want to give a very, very special thank you to whoever got these documents and FOIA'd them and paid the money to have them and to release them to the public for us to see, to get the truth. Thank you. You are doing something that is so beneficial to everybody that is intrigued or interested in this case, or for those that still support Gypsy Rose Blanchard and her lies. And I hope her and her family see this video, because I think they're looking the other way purposely, and you can't do it anymore, because the truth will come out eventually. All of these documents will come out eventually, and people will see it for what it really is. This is the stuff that we need to get out there, so I want you all to do me a favor. Please share this video, share these documents, hit the subscribe button, like this video, comment on this video, and help boost the algorithms and help get it pushed out there a little bit more. Let's focus on what really matters in regards to this Gypsy Rose Blanchard case and get the truth out there. Let's encourage everybody to, if you have the ability to FOIA a document or whatever and get those records, which again, like I said earlier, some of them you just can't at this point in time. But if you could, do it. I encourage you to do it. And again, a huge thank you to the person that did this, because some of us can't and would really want to, but you rock for doing that and getting this truth out there and helping to expose who Gypsy Rose Blanchard and the Blanchard family really are. So let me know what you guys think of this video and these documents. Tell me your thoughts about these video transcripts and what they say. Obviously, a lot of us already suspected that this is what they really pertain to, but hearing it in the official words, it is awesome and it's very satisfying to me. But I want to know what you guys think down below, and of course, I want to say thank you once again to Mellow Yellow 2022 for giving me that super thanks on my last video. You're awesome. I really appreciate each of you guys that even watch my videos because it does support me and my channel. But I will see you guys next time, and I'll look for you guys in the comments, and I'll be there talking back to you guys. So thank you for watching and supporting me. I will see you guys next time. Bye.